To be honest, is the pod going up? To be honest, sit down, we need to have a talk. Cornelius gon' make a point that the others don't. Them other shows sound the same, come escape the box. Expand your mind, dig into no controversial topics. He ain't scared to keep it real. Tune into this podcast, but don't be in your feelings. We gon' have a laugh, we gon' talk about some pain. Let's talk about the present situation of today. To be honest, is this the podcast? I need to tune it right now.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Cornelius Lindsay. Welcome to another episode of To Be Honest, and I am off location. Y'all know me and my wife. We post up in Los Angeles, CA, but right now we're away. But I can't let the week go by without dropping y'all a word or two. If you've been joining us, if you have not joined us, probably the last 3 or 4 weeks. I had an amazing guest on, Sharif De La Cruz, and we talked about like our experience with mega church and church culture and like being sunned and all that kind of stuff, which then ultimately brought up this whole nother discussion that I wanted to kind of share and kind of talk about with everybody here. And it's something I've been extremely passionate about here lately, and that is soul care. And I honestly believe that soul care is so vitally important. I talk about it a lot online, and I'll get people who throw me questions and they're like, well, I don't understand, Cornelius. Like, I thought you were a preacher, and it just seems like you're going new age on me, or you're just like, you're going a different direction. And are you reading the Bible, but reading something else? So I'm not understanding what you mean when you talk about soul care. So I wanted to just kind of take a minute to just be able to kind of explain some of these things to you, explain some of these concepts to you, and to show you just how biblical these things really are. So, when I define soul care as proper alignment. All right. And we're looking at proper alignment between 3 different major areas: spirit, mind, and body. Now, I believe that I am a spirit, that I live inside of a physical body, but I have a mind. I have a mind, I have a will, I have emotions, but ultimately I am a spirit. I have a mind, and I live inside a physical body. Now, I also believe that when I die, at the time of death, that my body ultimately goes back to the dust by which it was formed. It goes back to the ground, which is why we commit bodies to the ground and why we bury them. We bury them in the same dirt that they came out of, but the body goes to the ground. But my spirit and my mind, my spirit and my mind, that they go forth into eternity. So, when I'm talking about soul care, I'm talking about the full totality of life. I'm talking about the inclusion of the body, the inclusion of the mind, the inclusion of the spirit, and not the segregation of the 3. I feel like what we've done oftentimes in church culture is we focus so much on the spiritual side of it. And I would admit some of the mental side of it, but we've kind of left the body out altogether, and we forget that they all have to work together. I'll hear people and they'll say to me, because I love to work out, and they'll say, well, Cornelius, you know what it says in Timothy? It says, for bodily exercise profiteth little. But if you read the verse, it actually says that it profits little in comparison to spiritual discipline. So it's not saying that it doesn't profit anything at all. If that is the case, then there would be no profit to how we eat. There'd be no profit to fitness. There'll be no profit to taking care of ourselves, the proper, vitamins and minerals. In fact, if health was not such a big deal, then we wouldn't have many healing conferences. And if you look around in our world today, you hear people having healing conference, and everybody wants to be healed from ailment, from all these different ailments. And the reason why people are running after healing is because we don't talk anything about health. We don't talk about what it means to be healthy. We don't talk about what it means to keep the body as the Bible that I read, as it says. The Apostle Paul even talks about this. He's talking about, discipline the body, or making sure that I'm mastering the body so the body does not become a master over me. Is taking into thought that my body is extremely important. Like when I go exercise, I want to be able to release, dopamine inside of my body. I want to be able to understand the concept and the correlation between serotonin being released in my body and what that means, or, for men and women, understanding their amounts of estrogen inside of their body and what testosterone is doing for them. Like we don't understand those things. We just know a bunch of scripture. We just know, oh, God's going to do it. But he wants to give you wisdom on showing you how to take care of your body. Like he wants you to go for a walk. Like I look around, I remember I had this pastor many years ago, and he was like, "Oh, Cornelius, I feel like you're always talking about fitness and always talking about fitness. And I feel like you just need to preach more of the gospel." And I thought, well, what if this whole fitness thing is even part of it? I mean, consider the fact. Just consider this for a second. I know we have cars we can drive around with. I know we have airplanes we can get to places quickly and all that kind of stuff. But I want you to understand something. Like when I read the Bible I read, when Jesus was going places with his disciples, you know what they did? They walked. And I'm quite confident that a lot of pastors today probably could not walk from Jerusalem to Samaria. I mean, they probably can't even walk from their church to their mailbox because, you're just overweight. And it's like, how can we talk about the process of being disciplined or being a disciple when we're not even a disciplined one? We're not disciplined in what we can do. So we know the things of prophecy, and we understand, the prophetic, but we don't understand the simple things. Like, you want to stand up to a demon, but you can't stand up to a donut. That is a problem. That's a problem. We don't even find time to just go work out, like go and walk and go do those things we need to do. But then also talking about that process of the mind, understanding that my mind is extremely important, that I want to make sure that, I'm around certain people, like the Bible that I read, it says, bad company ultimately corrupts good morals. I believe that has a lot to do with our mind, not so much of our body. It can be affected, but it has a lot to do with our mind because who I hang around does matter. For instance, if I want to have a very poor and broke type of mentality, I need to hang out with people who have that. But oftentimes when I hang around with people who, think a lot differently than I do, or they think higher than I do, then my thinking ultimately begins to elevate. It doesn't take much for you for your mind to be able to elevate, for you to think differently. You just need to read different books or be able to, get around people who don't think like you do. I remember, a couple weeks ago, I was around this one guy. He's done incredibly well in his life, and I was around him, and we were having a discussion about just living and certain buildings in California and buying things and stuff like that. And he just kind of, I was telling him, I said, yeah, I looked at this building and it was about $20 million or so. He looked at me and he said, "Oh, wow, that's a great price." And I was like, "Man, that's $20 million." And he looked at me and he said, 20 million. You said, did you just say that was a lot of money? And I'm saying, yeah, that's a ton of money. And he's like, "Cornelius, you're telling me that's a ton of money?" He said, "When you have kids who are running around making millions of dollars with an iPhone." He said, "That's all they have. They have an iPhone. They have a YouTube channel that brings them millions of dollars a year. And you're telling me $20 million for that building is a lot of money?" And it was just like something inside of me just like clicked, like, you know what? He's absolutely right that my thinking is way too small. My faith just isn't there. That has a lot to do with my mind. And the Bible talks about those things and how the things that we read, even in the book of Philippians, in the church to Philippi, the letter goes, or the words go, it says, think on those things which are pure, which are lovely, which are of good report. Why? It says, think on those things. And the reason why we're thinking on those things, because it helps our mind, it helps our mental. We don't understand just even the concept. It's so simple, but sometimes we want to be so deep that we don't understand the concept of how the mind correlates with the body. When my body is ill, when I'm sick, then and things are going on the inside of me, then my mind is not going to be well. The same way, if I'm depressed or I have a ton of anxiety or things like that, my body is just not going to perform well. You ever heard of that whole flight and that whole fight or flight type of scenario, depending on which one you do in certain situations? Well, I want you to understand something. When in my head, when I'm thinking in terms of fight, then my body is going to react to that. My body is going to be in a posture to fight. But if I get into a certain situation and now my mind thinks in terms of freeze, my whole body is frozen. I'm not moving anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Now my mind is in control of the body. And so if you understand the concept and how to cause the two to work together between the mind and the body, it makes you just that much more powerful. Then you also have the spirit. Now, again, I believe I'm a Christian. I believe that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. I've made that confession of my faith, and I believe that is foundational to my faith. That is foundational to who I am. And because I believe that, then I believe that my spirit has been transformed. I believe I have been justified because of what Jesus Christ has already done for me on the cross when he paid the price for my sins. And because he did that, he's now justified me, which has now given me access to be reborn or to be born again. again. And now that I am born again, that my spirit has been renewed. But here's the thing that we don't oftentimes hear in church culture. Just because my spirit has been renewed does not mean that my mind has. Just because, my spirit has been renewed does not mean that my body has. That I still have certain bodily functions or certain things that are going on in my body because my body still wants things that ultimately sometimes is not supposed to have. And just because my spirit has been renewed does not mean that my mind has changed, that my body has changed. So I say all that to say soul care soul care brings all three of those things together. And the reason why I believe in this so much is because I know what it's like to feel depressed. I know what it's like to feel just major anxiety. I know what it's like to feel like you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I know what it's like to feel suicidal. I know what all those things feel like. And I've been in that place before. I've been in those places where I just did not want to carry on with life anymore. And it took soul care for me to now come back to a place of healing, come back to a place of health. It took soul care for me to understand, okay, Cornelius, you got to get your body in order. You need to be exercising. You need to be lifting weights. You need to be concerned about what you're eating. You need to make sure that you're not just putting a bunch of sugar inside of your body, because ultimately it's doing the same thing inside of your brain that it is with cocaine. Like you're doing the same exact thing. And in church culture, we'll talk about somebody that come in and they're a drug dealer, but we don't talk about the person who's just eating a bunch of sugar. You talk about the woman who comes in and she has a baby out of wedlock, but you don't talk about the dude who comes in who has a stomach this ultimately so large you can't even see his feet anymore. Because we don't deal with those things. We look at them as though they aren't necessarily the same. But the same way that we can talk about adultery, the same way we should talk about gluttony. And altogether, if we get into the process of soul care, it allows for us to see the correlation again between the body, the mind, and the spirit, and how they all begin to work together. Again, I am a spirit. I have a mind. I have a will, I have emotions. I have all those things. I have the ability to think. I have the ability to discern. I have the ability to decide. I have the ability to do all those things. So I am a spirit. I have a mind, but I live inside of a physical body. And if I want my physical body to be at optimal level, that means I have to make sure I fuel it correctly. That means I have to make sure I do the proper maintenance on it. That means I have to do all the things that are appropriate to keep my body going. The same way you do with your car. I know guys, man, I mean, they do everything they possibly can with their car. They're like, dude, this is my car. I need to make sure my car is always going to be well. I need to make sure that my car is going to, run at optimal levels. So I'm going to always put the right gas in it. I'm going to always, put the right oil in it. I want to make sure I always put the right tires on it, make sure I always clean it. You value your car more than you value your body. You won't go work out, to just make sure that you're training your body and you're disciplining your flesh. You don't want to put the right things in it, and you don't even care to find out what the right things are. Like, I have vehicles where I can put regular gas in them, and I have some vehicles where I can only put premium gas. And because I know that, I don't want to go and put regular gas in my premium gas vehicles. Why? Because if I do, ultimately it's going to mess up the tank, and then it's going to cost me all kinds of money. This is the same thing that's happened to people all day long. We put all the junk inside of our bodies that we don't need. And also, what happens right after that? Then right after that, we find ourselves paying these expensive, medical bills, because now we're on 9 to 10 to 12 different, medications that are ultimately just making, the pharmaceutical industry that much more richer. And now we're trying to figure out, okay, what happened? I know what happened. You're fueling your body wrong. And you have to find this break to be able to come back and say, you know what? I know this is what I've been doing, but I have to find something differently. Got to do something differently. I got to make sure I'm getting my mind in the right place. I got to make sure that I'm hanging around the right people. I have to make sure I'm getting my spirit right. I got to make sure that everything is properly aligned. So I want to continue to have this conversation with you, but I want to give you this foundational understanding of what soul care is. I want to be able to bring you some scriptures so you can begin to see how I even believe that the Bible gives us proper instructions for soul care that I think that oftentimes in church culture, we just kind of skip over. We look over it. We don't think about it. We're not even talking about it, but I'm talking about, bringing back into church culture, bringing in, I won't even say bringing back, because some places never had it, but bringing in conversations about mental health, about your body health, about your spiritual health, about all those things, which once they all come together, I believe it places you in a proper place of health. So y'all, we're going to continue to have this conversation over and over again, man. I'm so glad that y'all always joining me. Make sure that you continue to stay locked in. Make sure you always subscribe too. I release a podcast every single Wednesday. I mean, I have all kind of guests who come on. Make sure that you are always rocking with me, man. I love y'all. Y'all know it. Introduces. This your boy, Cornelius Lindsay. I am Audi 5000, man. I love y'all. Peace.